Okay, so this is the first time telling this story like this, but I'm not too sure what I saw or even if it was real, but it felt too real for me. But this might sound weird or not even that scary, but it was one rainy day my dad and I went to my friend's trailer at the time. We walk in and the front door enters into a hallway and the door to the right of it I guess was the exit door at one point, but we walk down the hallway and it turns into a kitchen living room and keep in mind I'm like 9 or 10 at the time, so me and my friend does what any 9 to 10-year-old does, play to San Andreas. My friend has his PlayStation on the kitchen table and we're facing the hallway as my friend is watching me play I'm killing cop in the police station. As I die I give the controller to him. I'm just looking at my dad and my friend's dad shoot the shit. My dad is standing right in front of the hallway but both of them are facing us. Now this is where it gets weird for me. So as they are shooting the shit I see this thing or person like kinda appear behind him in the hallway and it's taller than him, and I remember looking at the head, and this is the only thing I can remember vividly, but it looked as if the head was smashed in, and to this day it looked like a clicker's head for the Last of Us, and it wasn't even out at the time. At least the shape of it looked like a clicker. Not sure if I can post pics in here, but the face was totally just skin. I didn't see no eyes, nose, or mouth. It was wearing all brown clothes, or maybe it was the color of the thing. I can't remember what kind of clothes it was wearing, but as soon as I looked it up and down it like turned the head towards me and it looked like it was caught in an act of something and turned and ran back into the hallway. I guess I looked like I saw a ghost, because my dad and friend's dad was worried about me. I didn't tell them what I saw, but as we were about to leave I looked down the hallway and I saw it go out the exit door I was talking about, and it ran out of it and closed it. I then asked both parents who went out that door, and everyone looks at me like I'm crazy, and my friend's dad says, "What door?" I show him the door and he laughs at me like I'm stupid and then tells me, "This door doesn't open, it bolted. No one could open it if they wanted." So thoughts the end. I'm not too sure what I saw there, and I'm not sure if it was someone that died there or anything, and I'm not friends with that person anymore. Also sorry if this was bad, but tell what you guys think it was. Also I have more stories. See ya.
My first experience happened when I was about 8-9 years old in 2007, not long after my grandfather had died. I would always love to sleep over at my grandmother's simply because I didn't like leaving her alone, and I would always have a good time. Well, one night, and I know there was a very big thunderstorm that night, because I recall her ushering me inside. When I saw the storm clouds rolling in, I stayed inside and watched TV with her. Typical afternoon. Everything went normally. She cooked something for me, and after we finished eating we went to bed. Now in my grandmother's room she has 2 windows and 2 beds. I'll draw out the diagram of how the room was set up at the time. What I remember was waking up sometime in the middle of the night. The power was out, and I knew this because the air in the room was still and hot and it was pitch black. Occasionally in my peripheral I could see flashes of light. The thunderstorm from earlier was still going on. This was pretty much the only source of light. As I lay there, I don't know why, but I felt the urge to turn to my left, which would face me towards one of the windows and the entrance. As I stared out at the window I began to see this strange sock puppet-looking creature begin to extend out from behind the recliner that sat in between the window and door. I was pretty much petrified as I watched it extend out in full view of the window, and I know it was inside the room because of how the lighting outside illuminated it. This snake thing just stayed there motionless, and as more lighting hit outside I began to see what I could assume being the head open up into 3 parts. It reminded me a lot of the sandworms from the movie Dune. Once fully opened it held this position for about a few seconds before I saw a small, faint but visible flash of green light come from inside its mouth. It looked a lot like how camcorders have that red blinking light on the front to signify that it's recording. After that it closed up and retracted back behind the recliner. I didn't see the rest of its body, only the part that came up from behind the chair. In the years following that incident I tried to figure out what that thing was, see if anyone else reported something similar, but the only cryptids I found that resembled what I saw were some of the strange serpent entities seen at Skinwalker Ranch, and the Mongolian death worm. Believe me, I searched as far and wide for something remotely close to what I saw that night, but nothing ever turned up. I have a few theories as to what it could have been: an interdimensional creature, some kind of alien probe. I have seen some videos on alien probe creatures, and I do consider this a likely possibility. It's the most comfortable theory to me. The last one I haven't really considered until recent years, that what I saw could have been a screen memory for something far more terrifying, an abduction. I know that my grandmother was sleeping in the same room that night, and never once did she wake up or seem disturbed in her sleep by the entity or the lightning and thunder outside. As a matter of fact, I don't remember there even being any thunder or even any noise at all, and I know there should have been thunder because of how bright the flashes of light coming from outside were. Either way, I've never let this incident really bother me in my life, but it still has stuck out to me as very strange. Even a decade and some change later, I still remember it as if it happened just last night. This incident certainly was one of the more defining experiences that sealed my interest in the paranormal.
So, got a crazy horror story here. Not from me, but from a friend of mine. For the sake of story, I'm gonna call my friend Brad and this girl Amanda. So anyways, Brad got into this relationship with Amanda, who is known for sleeping around with other dudes. Brad is a pretty good looking dude, a solid 10 compared to other dudes. He's pretty built too, which made him a big target for Amanda. Amanda was pretty cute, and had some pretty nice boobs, not gonna lie. She was also a bit of a tomboy, and played video games a lot. They kinda hit it off and had a lot of similar interests. Point is, for the first few months the relationship was going well, and so far she hadn't been sleeping around with other dude. We all thought that Brad was just a good fit for her, and maybe she didn't want any other dudes now. Well, one day she asks Brad if he wants to do the do. Brad, being the Chad he is but not necessarily religious, declines her and asks to wait a little longer to make sure they were a perfect fit, and because he was a virgin and wanted it to be with someone special. She gets pissed at him and leaves his house. He isn't too worried and calls her a few minutes later. Some dude on the other end picks up. Proceeds to tell Brad she's being passed around by multiple dudes. Brad, being the absolute beast he is, calmly asks the address, claiming he wants to join in. Dude on the other end tells him, and he heads over to this crack den looking place. He walks in and sees the orgy before him. Now, something I am going to tell you about Brad. He's hurt a lot of people along his life, but never enough to send them to the hospital because he simply wasn't that kind of dude. But he definitely was capable of putting dudes in the ER. Now, this may not sound like a horror story yet, but we're getting there. Anyways, Brad proceeds to beat the living shit out of every dude in that room. This whole time Amanda screamed at him, begging him to stop and crying. When he's done, apparently there was a lot of broken bones and dicks smashed by his boots. He tells Amanda they were breaking up and leaves the crack den. Fast forward a whole year, Amanda is obsessing over him, texting him every day on new accounts, and telling him she's sorry for all she did and wasn't sleeping around anymore. She was. She's literally knocking on his window almost every night, and she's apparently depressed and suicidal. She's telling him that he was the only one that treated her right and wasn't just being used for sex. Brad just tells her that it was her fault for being a horny bitch. Now, this is where shit gets scary, and I'm here for this portion. His parents were out of town for that week, so I'm just hanging with him for the week like bros do. One day Brad and I were working on his 66 Impala in his garage. When this van pulls up the driveway, there's a group of men inside wearing masks. We don't think it's weird because of the current situation in the world. They pull out and we think they had the wrong address. Later that night we're hanging out in his living room and hear a knock at the door. Those dudes in masks in their pedo van is here. They try to get through the gap in the door before Brad smashes dude's fingers in the door and puts the little chain latch on. We proceed to run to his parents' room and grab his dad's Arkansas 15 in Mossberg. I'm watching the hallway while he's loading the Mossberg. Hear the door slam open and watch the hall. Hear them smashing shit up and they get to the hall. We close the door and don't lock it so they think they've got us. The fucking retards are breaking the door off its hinges with a crowbar and don't even check to see if it's unlocked. We wait until they break it open, and I fire a sweet 5.56 into one of the dude's legs. They all scatter, leaving their friend behind. Brad recognizes one of the dudes as the dude who was part of that orgy with Amanda a few months back. He tells us that Amanda promised them another orgy if they kidnapped Brad or killed him. Brad picked dude up over his head and chucked him out the window with the logic of half the house is already fucked up, a broken window won't hurt at this point. We go to police and tell them everything. Luckily we got off easy and no punishment for shooting dude in leg. As for the rest, they were tracked down and arrested for multiple things, apparently drugs, gun possession while on parole violations and a plethora of other things. Amanda was taken into custody and taken to a mental health clinic. Brad's doing alright, his parents are well off and got the repairs done easy. And that's about where the story ends. So, it's a pretty happy ending if you wanna say that.